secret pleasure protocols, and the restricted archive. The secret formula that will make her dream of unzipping your fly. Right now, we are going to touch upon information that has remained in the shadows for years. These are not the tips you read in popular men's magazines or hear from friends over a beer. We are opening access to data from a massive sociological study conducted under the strictest conditions of anonymity. Imagine a room with 5,000 women. These are not 18-year-old girls with their heads in the clouds. These are adult, experienced women aged 25 to 45. They have husbands, lovers, children, and careers. They were guaranteed that their answers would never be personalized, and that guarantee loosened their tongues. They told the truth that would make the hair on most men's heads stand on end. Statistics are stubborn and cynical things. 85% of these women admitted to a paradoxical fact. In the survey, they stated that the act of oral affection itself is one of the most powerful sources of arousal for them. They like the feeling of control. They like seeing a strong man lose his will in their hands. They like the taste of male power and the scent of arousal. For the female nature, it is an act of worship and simultaneously an act of power. It would seem like an ideal picture. But let's look at the second part of this study, which destroys this idol. The very same women who write in questionnaires about their love for this process, in real life, turn down their husbands and partners 8 times out of 10. Think about that number. 8 rejections out of 10 attempts. Or even worse, they agree but do it with the look of someone signing a death warrant or performing a dirty, unpleasant chore. The man sees rolled eyes. He hears heavy sighs. He feels her body tense up, wanting to finish as quickly as possible. And this destroys his self-esteem. What goes on in a man's head at this moment? A mechanism of self-destruction kicks in. He starts thinking the problem is him, that he has gotten old, that he no longer attracts her as a male, or he decides his woman is simply frigid, cold, and incapable of passion. Resentment begins, silent conflicts, infidelity. The man turns into an eternal beggar, pleading for crumbs of pleasure from the mistress of the situation. But this is the wrong path. The study showed that the problem is not female coldness. The problem is a violation of a fundamental biological protocol. You simply do not know the rules of the game that have been hardwired into her subconscious by millions of years of evolution. We gathered this material to give you the keys to a locked door. We won't talk about banal things. We will go deep. We will break down the psychology of archetypes spoken of by the fathers of psychoanalysis, but we will translate their complex language into clear, hard-hitting instructions. We will give you a secret formula consisting of 5 elements. This is a step-by-step guide to hacking the female libido. If you apply even half of what you hear today, your intimate life will change not by percentages, but by multiples. You will stop asking. You will start receiving this as a gift that a woman presents to you with joy. And there is one more detail, a secret ingredient. We call it the absolute submission reflex. It is a psychological trigger that, when pressed at the right moment, will make a woman dream of repeating the experience. But we will reveal this secret only at the very end, because you need to be prepared for it. Without understanding the base, it will be useless. Therefore, I ask you to treat this video as a training manual. Listen carefully, not missing a single detail. We are starting the transformation of your experience right now. But before we dive into the first and dirtiest aspect of this topic, I propose we make a deal. If you are ready to hear the truth, no matter how unpleasant it may be, hit the like button on this video right now. This will be your signal that you are an adult ready for change. And if you are here for the first time, subscribe to the channel. We discuss here what others are ashamed to keep silent about. Done? Then let's move on to the first section. The biological foundation and the chemistry of disgust. Any great empire is built on sewers and roads. Any great sex is built on physiology. We can talk for hours about high energies, tantra, and spiritual closeness, but all these castles in the air will crash against the harsh rock of biology if we ignore basic instincts. And the first, most critical barrier that 90% of men stumble over is smell. According to that same closed dossier, 92% of women named smell as the main reason for refusal or lack of enthusiasm. They called it the scent of yesterday. Let's break down this mechanism from a scientific point of view, so you stop taking offense forever and understand the physiology of the process. Male and female brains process smells differently. The olfactory bulb in a woman's brain has 40% more neurons than a man's. Moreover, her sense of smell is directly connected to the limbic system, the most ancient part of the brain responsible for emotions, memory, and sexual behavior. This means that for her, a smell is not just information. It is an emotion. It is a verdict delivered in a split second, bypassing consciousness. The situation gets worse on certain days of her cycle. During ovulation, when nature requires a woman to reproduce, her sensitivity to smells sharpens tenfold. She turns into a walking biochemical laboratory. She is capable of detecting the slightest notes of decaying sweat, bacteria, and smegma. And here is where the most interesting part happens. For a male nose, a light body odor might seem normal, masculine, natural. But for a female brain tuned to search for an ideal genetic partner, the smell of stale sweat in the groin area is decoded unambiguously. It is a signal of illness. It is a signal of decay. It is a signal of biological hazard. As soon as this signal reaches her brain, the production of dopamine and oxytocin, hormones of pleasure and attachment, is instantly blocked. Instead, cortisol and adrenaline are released. The disgust reflex kicks in. This is not a whim, it is an evolutionary safety fuse. Nature protects the female from contact with a potentially unhealthy male. In that second, her libido drops to absolute zero. You can be the richest, smartest, and most eloquent man in the world, but if you fail this test, the gates of paradise will slam shut in front of your nose. And the saddest part is that she won't even tell you the truth so as not to offend you. She will say she has a headache. Now let's talk about the solution. About the concept of the edible man. Oral contact is, by its nature, a food metaphor. A woman literally tastes you. And here hygiene rises to the level of art. A regular shower in the morning is not enough. If you spent the whole day in the office, in the car, in trousers made of thick fabric, by evening an ideal thermostat for bacteria breeding has formed down there. Before an act of intimacy, a shower is mandatory. And it shouldn't be just a shower, but a thorough cleansing using special products with a neutral acidity level. You must be as clean as a surgical instrument before an operation. The visual aspect is no less important. Grooming. Taking care of vegetation. Many men consider this shameful or unmanly. This is a profound misconception. Hair in the intimate zone is not a sign of brutality, it is an ideal odor trap. The porous structure of the hair holds sweat molecules and bacteria, creating a persistent trail that cannot be washed off with plain water. When a woman sees a thick bush, her subconscious reads it as sloppiness, as a barrier. A neat trim or complete hair removal sends a powerful signal. I take care of myself. I respect you. I am ready for contact. Besides, there is a simple visual trick. A well-groomed area visually makes your tool look bigger and more aesthetic. It is pure psychology of perception. But we go even deeper. We dive into the biochemistry of taste. Men rarely think about the fact that their fluids have a taste that directly depends on what they have eaten and drunk in the last 24 hours. It is pure chemistry. Decay products of alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, as well as sulfur compounds from garlic, onions, and spicy food enter the bloodstream and secretions, giving them a sharp, bitter, sometimes metallic taste. For a woman, this is a taste shock. Imagine being forced to drink a glass of sour milk. Would you have much enthusiasm? On the other hand, there are products that work as natural sweeteners. Pineapples, kiwis, citrus fruits, mint, celery, and large volumes of clean water change the chemical composition of secretions, making them neutral or sweetish. Experienced lovers know this. And experienced men know this. If you are planning a wild night, start preparing for it a day in advance. Cut out heavy food, alcohol, and cigarettes. Lean on fruit and water. This is a show of respect for your partner. You turn yourself from a bitter pill into an exquisite dessert. And believe me, a woman will appreciate this difference instantly, responding to you with an enthusiasm you never dreamed of. Let's cement this block with a metaphor. Imagine you came to the most expensive restaurant in the city. You are hungry, you anticipate delight. The waiter brings you a culinary masterpiece, but serves it on a dirty plate with leftovers from yesterday's meal hanging off the side, and the table smells like a sour rag. Would you eat this delicacy? Unlikely. You would leave. In the bedroom, you are the main course. And your hygiene, your smell, and taste are the table setting. If you want a woman not just to perform a marital duty but to greedily want you, become the dish she wants to eat to the last drop. This is the base. This is the foundation. Without this, no psychological tricks will work. And while we digest this information and prepare to move on to the psychology of dominance, I want to ask you a question that will help us understand each other better. Men from all over the world are watching us, and this problem has no borders. Write in the comments, what is the climate like in your city? Hot, cold, temperate? This affects physiology more than you think. Just write one word in the comments, and we will continue. Psychology of the King and the Sacrament of Service. Now that we have cleared the foundation of biological errors, we enter territory where 90% of men lose the battle before it even begins. We are talking about the psychological position, about internal hierarchy. The main problem with the modern man is that he has forgotten his nature and turned into an eternal beggar. Remember how the initiation of this process usually happens in long-term relationships. A man, feeling desire, starts behaving insecurely. He changes his voice to an ingratiating one, plaintive notes appear in his intonations. He says phrases like, "Maybe we could today. Oh, please. You haven't done this in a long time." He circles around, hints, looks into her eyes with hope, like a hungry dog. At this moment, he makes a fatal mistake. Let's break down what happens in the female subconscious at this second. Female nature is deeply hierarchical. At the level of instincts developed over millennia, a female seeks the strongest male for procreation and protection. A strong male never begs. He takes, he offers, he initiates. A beggar asks. When you start begging for pleasure, you voluntarily put on a beggar's costume. And beggars can be pitted, they can be thrown a coin out of pity, but they are impossible to desire. Pity is a libido killer. As soon as a woman starts pitying you, her wet desire dries up instantly. Here, deep knowledge of the human psyche and archetypes comes to our aid. Inside every woman, even the most emancipated one, lives the ancient archetype of the priestess. Who is a priestess? She is one who serves a higher power. A priestess is not humiliated when she kneels before a deity or a totem. For her, this is an act of elevation. It is a ritual of communion with power. But for this mechanism to work, an idol must stand before her, not a stooping petitioner. She wants to serve a king. She wants to feel that her actions are aimed at satisfying someone who stands higher than her in the food chain. This gives her a sense of safety and belonging to greatness. Pay attention to the geometry of the process. We call this the sacred vertical. At the moment of action, the woman is physically below you. Many men, poisoned by modern upbringing and a false sense of guilt, try to smooth over this situation. They slide down, try to lie next to her, fuss, ask if she is comfortable. They apologize for their dominance. Stop. Never do this. Maintain the vertical. Your task is to broadcast absolute, monumental calm. You are a rock. She is the wave washing over this rock. Your position must speak without words. I am worthy of this. My pleasure is your reward for loyalty. And this has nothing to do with tyranny or petty despotism. It is the calm confidence of a lion allowing a lioness to groom him. In psychoanalysis, there is the concept of the oral phase of development. This is the very first, most archaic way of interacting with the world. An infant consumes mother's milk to live. In a sexual context, an inversion of roles occurs. The woman, accepting the masculine principle, symbolically absorbs life force, vitality, young energy. But she will only want to absorb this power from someone who has this power in abundance. If you are empty, if you are trembling with fear of rejection, if you are dependent on her decision, you have nothing to give her. You are an empty vessel. That is why your internal setting is primary. You must not wait for pleasure, but allow it to happen. When you change the polarity from give me to take me, you press a hidden button in her psyche. She ceases to be a mommy or a boss. She becomes who she was created to be by nature, a priestess performing a sacrament. Remember this state. Heavy, calm, silent expectation. You do not demand, you do not bang your fist on the table. You simply create a space in which her only desire becomes to make you feel good. You become the magnet that attracts iron. And when she sees this look, the look of a king who knows his worth, her knees buckle on their own. Not from fear, but from the sweet anticipation of submitting to power. This is the psychology of power, without which technique does not work. The language of silence and the guiding hand technique. We move from theory to hard practice. We enter the zone of nonverbal communication. The biggest problem with communication in bed is words. Words are tools of logic. When you open your mouth and say "make me feel good" or use coarser, directive verbs, you are addressing the woman's neocortex, the new cortex of the brain. This is the youngest and most tedious part of the brain. It is responsible for analysis, criticism, social norms, planning, and doubts. Hearing a command, her brain starts working like a computer. Is he clean? What time is it? Won't I ruin my hair? Is this dignified? While this computer is running, passion dies. We need to bypass this guard post. We need to address the reptilian brain directly, the oldest structure responsible for instincts, reproduction, and submission to hierarchy. For this, we use a method I call the guiding hand technique. This is a direct action tool. Imagine the scenario. You are lying down. Foreplay has already warmed her blood. She is nearby. Do not say a word. Silence creates tension. At this moment, you place your palm on the back of her head or on the back of her neck, right where the hairline begins. This should not be a pinch, a blow, or a frantic grab. It must be the warm, heavy, confident hand of a master. You place it weightily, claiming rights to this zone. And then, you apply light, smooth, but persistent downward pressure, indicating the vector of her movement towards your center. Why does this work flawlessly? Let's look at the biology of mammals. Cats, dogs, primates have a reflex. When a mother takes a cub by the scruff of the neck, it instantly relaxes and goes limp. When a dominant male places a paw on a female's neck, she freezes and demonstrates submission. This is firmware that is millions of years old. It is a signal. I am in charge here. Trust me. Follow me. When you do this with a woman, you activate this ancient neural circuit. In anonymous surveys, women describe this sensation with delight. When his hand lands on my neck, my head turns off. Thoughts about work, the mortgage, the kids disappear. I feel like his property. I feel small and protected. I just want to obey this pressure. It is a sweet captivity I don't want to escape from. But here we must discuss safety protocols. The line between exciting dominance and violence is very thin. Your hand is a steering wheel, not a vice. Your task is to set a vector, not break her vertebrae. You are suggesting a movement. You are initiating an impulse. And at this moment, you must be extremely attentive to feedback. If you feel her neck muscles turn to stone, if she resists the pressure, if she tries to pull away, remove your hand immediately or loosen the grip. This is a red light. It means you didn't do enough work during foreplay, or she doesn't trust you. If you continue to press with force, you will commit violence. You will cause fear, pain, and aggression. And she will never touch you again. However, if you did everything right, if you were clean and calm, her body will respond to this impulse with gratitude. She will lean forward, following your hand. It is like a tango dance, where the partner leads with his body, and the partner reads micro-movements and obeys the pattern of the dance. At this moment, you take responsibility for the process. You are like the captain of a ship plotting a course. Women are tired of making decisions in life. They are tired of being strong. In bed, give her the luxury of being weak. Give her the luxury of not thinking about what to do next. Your hand on the back of her head says, I know what we need, just follow me. And believe me, for a modern woman, this is the best gift you can give. But this is only the beginning of control. The hand sets the start. But how to manage the process and dynamics? How to show her what you like and what you don't, without using stupid words and instructions? For this, we will need two more powerful tools, the acoustic drug and visual control. They are what turn a mechanical process into a symphony of sensations. And we will break them down right now, in the next part of our deep dive. The acoustic drug and sound navigation. We often underestimate the power of sound, believing that a man should be silent and stern. But in the intimate process, silence is not gold. Silence is an enthusiasm killer. One of the most frequent and bitter complaints women leave in anonymous questionnaires sounds like this. He is silent as a partisan under interrogation. I try. I use all my skills, but in response, dead silence. I feel like a mechanical device, a vacuum cleaner, a soulless function. I don't understand if he likes it or not. And after a minute, I get bored. Understand the simple mechanics of perception. The woman at this moment is blind. She does not feel what you feel. She has no telepathic connection to your pleasure center. The only way for her to understand that she is doing everything right is your feedback. Sound is her navigation system in the dark. When you are silent, she wanders in the fog. She starts thinking she is doing something wrong, that she is clumsy, that you are indifferent. Her energy drops, movements become automatic, and she just waits for the end. You lose 80% of her potential. Sound works like fuel, like a drug. When you emit a low, guttural moan, when your breathing falters and becomes heavy, when an involuntary growl escapes your chest, this is a signal. This is a green light lighting up in her brain. This signal says, you are great, you are doing everything right, continue, don't stop. This is instant reinforcement of her actions. She hears this sound and thinks, God, I'm driving him crazy. I am controlling this big, strong, restrained man. I made him lose control. This gives her an incredible sense of power. And power for a woman in bed is the strongest aphrodisiac. The louder and more frankly you express your sensations, the more passion she puts into the process. She enters a competition with herself. She wants to squeeze that sound out of you again. She wants to make it louder. She wants to push you to the limit. It turns into a gambling game. Silence kills this excitement. Sound ignites it. You become not just a passive recipient of services, but an active participant conducting the orchestra with your voice. But there is an important nuance of tonality. Society taught us to suppress emotions. So many men are shy to moan. Forget about it. But remember the physics of sound. High, squeaky notes can sound comical and kill the atmosphere of masculinity. We need a low register. Vibration. A guttural sound coming from the diaphragm. This is the sound of a beast, not a boy. Use short, chopped phrases of approval. Yes, like that. Good, good girl. These are not just words. These are commands. These are markers that reinforce correct behavior. You are programming her in real time. Do this, and you will get my reaction. The choice is yours. Be silent and get mediocrity, or sound off and get the maximum. Visual contact and the eyes of the priestess. The next component of our formula concerns the eyes. Vision is the second control channel after hearing. Imagine the classic scenario that happens in the bedrooms of millions of couples. She is working, she is trying. At some point, she looks up to meet your gaze. This is an instinctive movement. She is looking for contact. And what does the man do? He looks at the ceiling, studying the cracks in the plaster. He closes his eyes, retreating into his fantasies. Or, which is the highest degree of disrespect, he squints at the TV or phone screen. This is a fatal error. This is breaking contact. At that moment, she feels lonely. She feels used. Let's turn to depth psychology. According to analysts of the Jungian school, at the moment of oral intimacy, a woman seeks connection not only with the partner's body, but also with his soul, with his animus. The gaze is a bridge. When she looks at you from the bottom up, she is in a vulnerable position. She is open, and she seeks confirmation that her sacrifice is accepted. She needs, if you will, visual voyeurism. She wants to see how your face changes. She wants to see the grimace of pleasure. She wants to see your pupils dilate and your eyes glaze over with pleasure. Seeing this means feeling her victory. If you hide your face, you steal this victory from her. Your reaction must be direct and unambiguous. Do not close your eyes. Look at her. Look her straight in the eyes. But how to look? There should be no boredom or emptiness in your look. Look with greed. Look with admiration. Look with frank, undisguised lust. Your gaze should speak without words. You are my good girl. I see how you are trying, and I appreciate every second of this act. This is silent communication that creates electrical tension between you of such force that the air begins to spark. At this moment, you become accomplices in a crime against public morality. And this brings you incredibly close. Moreover, visual contact is a tool of control. A leader always keeps the situation under observation. When you look into her eyes, you see her state. You see if her eyes are watering, if it is difficult for her to breathe, if there is excitement or fatigue in her gaze. You keep your finger on the pulse of the process. This is the position of a strong male controlling his territory. A woman feels this control. Under your intent, approving gaze, she blooms. She feels like a porn star, a goddess, a beloved concubine, anyone but a bored housewife. So next time she looks up at you, don't turn away. Meet her gaze and put all your masculine gratitude and power into it. This will make her try with doubled energy you never suspected existed. The phenomenon of ultimate depth. Now we approach one of the most mythologized and complex topics in the male world, the topic of deep penetration. Thanks to the adult industry, this act has become the gold standard in male fantasies. Every man dreams of it, but in real life, this is the most difficult physiological and, more importantly, psychological barrier. Why is this technique so popular, and what does it really mean? Here physics comes into harsh conflict with the psyche. Physically, it is uncomfortable. It is a struggle with the gag reflex, one of the strongest protective mechanisms of the body. It means tears from the eyes, throat spasms, lack of air. But why then do women do it? And why does it turn men on so much? The meaning of this action lies in the concept of sacrifice and absolute trust. When a woman overcomes her natural protective barrier for your sake, she commits an act of self-sacrifice. She lets you in where entry is forbidden by nature. She turns off the instinct of self-preservation for your pleasure. This is the highest degree of intimacy. In deep interviews, many women admitted to an amazing paradox. When I take him as deep as possible, I feel a strange, perverse pride. I contained his power. I accepted him completely, without residue. I was able to do what others cannot. For many temperamental women, this is akin to extreme sports. It is a challenge to herself and proof of her total devotion to her partner. But here an iron rule applies, written in the blood of thousands of destroyed relationships. Depth is a gift. It is a privilege that cannot be demanded. It is not a right granted to you at the registry office. The most terrible mistake is trying to take this fortress by storm. If you start forcing it, ignoring her physiology, if you push when she is choking, you will cause panic. You will cause animal terror of suffocation. And along with this terror will come disgust that will stay with her for life. You will turn the sacred act of love into an act of violence with your own hands. And she will never forgive you for this. Depth opens only at the peak of relaxation. The throat is a muscle, and it must get used to it, to trust. Your task is to create conditions under which she herself will want to do it. Use the guiding hand technique we discussed in the last chapter, but be extremely delicate. Work in millimeters. Give her a breather. Retreat when you feel a spasm. Appreciate every attempt. If she sees that you value her effort, that you understand how difficult it is for her, that you are grateful to her for this risk, she will try again and again. She herself will want to conquer this peak for you, to see the delight in your eyes. Remember, you are not training a special forces soldier, you are loving a woman. And when she opens up to you completely, it is a moment to be valued above any gold. For in this moment, she is defenseless before you like never before. We have come a long way, analyzed the foundation, psychology, and technique. But we are not finished yet. A grand finale awaits us. We will analyze the sacred moment of completion, find out why surprises are forbidden, and finally reveal that very fifth element, the absolute submission reflex, which will make her look forward to the next time with impatience. The denouement is close, and it will overturn your idea of the ending. Sacred acceptance and the code of honor. We are approaching the point of no return, the moment of the finale. In most primitive male conversations, this moment boils down to one technical question: where? But we agreed to look at the root. We must understand the symbolism of this action. In ancient cultures, in Taoist practices, and Eastern medicine, male seed was never considered just a biological fluid. It is the quintessence of life force. It is pure yang energy. It is the carrier of the genetic code and ancestral information. And how a woman accepts this gift defines the true status of your relationship. It is a litmus test of her attitude toward you. There are two main scenarios for completion, and each has its own deep psychological subtext that you must read. The first scenario is internal acceptance. This is total connection. In the language of the unconscious, a woman tells you, "I want a part of you to become a part of me. I accept your essence without squeamishness. I accept your energy." This is the highest act of intimacy, available only with full, absolute trust. It is a declaration that she is ready to dissolve in you. The second scenario is visual marking. When the finale happens on her face, neck, or chest, this action has a different nature. It is a game of humiliation and elevation, where you, as a conqueror, mark your territory. For many women, this is a powerful visual signal of belonging. She sees the white traces of your passion on herself, and this is proof of her female competence. She feels like a desired prize. She likes this aesthetic of vice. Both options are beautiful if they are agreed upon. But here the iron code of honor comes into force, the violation of which costs you the loss of trust forever. Never, do you hear? Never make this a surprise without warning. This is not a joke. This is betrayal. Imagine her state. She is relaxed. She trusts you with her body, her eyes, her hair. And if you suddenly change the rules of the game at the last second, you destroy the magic and cause panic. You get it in her eyes. You ruin her hair before an important meeting. You scare her. At this moment, she is defenseless. To use her defenselessness is the lot of weak and insecure men. A strong man, a king, always gives a choice. How to do this technically without interrupting the passion? It is the language of gestures. It can be a silent question with the eyes. It can be a slight movement of the hand, hinting at a change of position. It can be a gentle tap. A woman who is tuned into you reads this signal in a split second. If she is ready, she will open her mouth or offer her face. If she closes up, pulls away, or shakes her head, respect this decision instantly. Your respect in this second will buy you 1,000 such nights in the future. Your violence or resentment will close this door forever. Remember, the finale is the artist's signature under the painting. Make sure this signature is beautiful and desired by both. And then you will see how proud she will be that she accepted your power. The grand finale and the absolute submission reflex. And now, what we traveled this long path for. The fifth element. The secret ingredient of the formula that distinguishes just good sex from narcotic attachment. We call it the absolute submission reflex. We promise to reveal it at the end because without the previous 4 steps, it simply won't work. What makes a woman not just tolerate this process, but dream of it? What makes her want to repeat it again and again, even if it was physically difficult for her? The answer lies not in the act itself, but in what happens in the first 30 seconds after it. This is called the aftertaste phenomenon. Recall the mistake of 99% of men. Having achieved release, their testosterone level drops sharply. The so-called refractory period begins. A man feels emptiness, drowsiness. He wants to turn to the wall, go to the shower, or bury himself in his phone. He needs solitude. And he leaves the woman alone. Alone with her sensations, with the taste in her mouth, with smeared makeup. And at this moment, in this silence, she feels like a used object. Dirty, unnecessary, thrown on the roadside. It is in these seconds that a negative conditioned reflex forms in her brain. Oral sex equals a feeling of loneliness and humiliation. And next time she will find 1,000 reasons to refuse you. The absolute submission reflex is formed differently. You must overcome your fatigue. Immediately after the finale, without letting her go for a single second, you must give her a massive dose of oxytocin, the hormone of attachment and love. Hug her. Press her head to your chest. Kiss her. Yes, many men are squeamish about kissing a woman on the lips right after the finale. If this is you, kiss her on the forehead, on the temple, on the eyes, on the nose. It doesn't matter. Tactile contact is important. Say words of gratitude to her. Say, "You are incredible. Thank you. You drove me crazy. You are the best." This must be sincere admiration. You must show her that her sacrifice, her efforts, her overcoming of the gag reflex and discomfort were rated by the king as top class. You must return her status as a goddess. When you do this, her brain links this dirty, animal act not with humiliation, but with the highest form of love and intimacy. You close the neural circuit on a positive. You work like a genius animal trainer who gives the tastiest piece of sugar after a deadly dangerous trick. Only your sugar is your tenderness, your attention, and your recognition. If you do this, she will wait for the next time to get this portion of your love again. She will want to serve you because serving you brings her emotional ecstasy, not emptiness. She will know, whatever she does, in the end, warm hugs of her man await her, not a cold back. That is the whole formula. It is simple and complex at the same time. Let's summarize. First, be clean as a deity. Smell and taste decide everything. Second, be confident as a king. Do not ask, but allow. Third, use your hand for control, not words. Fourth, sound off and look, give her feedback. And fifth, give her 30 seconds of love after the finale. Apply this knowledge today, and you will see how a woman's gaze changes when you simply reach for your belt buckle. There will be no more boredom in her eyes. There will be only the desire to serve you. If this breakdown was useful, if it opened your eyes to the nature of female desire, the best gratitude is your subscription and like. We are creating a community here of men who know the truth and are not afraid to apply it. Welcome to the club. See you.